At first, everything felt perfect. Love, freedom, ease. She laughed, he believed. They weren't in a rush to grow up, didn't think about kids, just enjoyed each other. He thought he knew her by heart, every spark in her eyes, every nervous twitch. But one trip, one week, one stranger's hand on her shoulder, and it all came crashing down. Not instantly. First came the subtle tension, the sparse messages, the fake smiles. Then, a night with someone else, a lie, and finally the kind of silence that chills your blood, when the person you love becomes a stranger and every word is a splinter under your skin. But in that chaos, there's also freedom. Sometimes, to truly start living, you have to walk through the ashes. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watch this video. I value every one of your comments. So let's get started. By the time Melissa and I stepped into our third year as husband and wife, everything felt like second nature. We hadn't felt any pressure to jump into the parenting pool, and frankly, we loved the freedom that came with it. Spontaneous road trips, back-to-back late-night movies, the thrill of acting on a whim. It suited us perfectly. Melissa had this spark, this electricity that seemed to charge any space she walked into. She was sharp, playful, and just unpredictable enough to keep life interesting. But lying? That was never her strong suit. The truth always had a way of showing up in her eyes. I noticed it early on, back when we were still finding our rhythm. Whenever she tried to be dishonest, her gaze would drift and her hands would fidget, like her body was trying to run from the words. I didn't think much of it. If anything, I found it oddly charming, like I had my own personal radar for truth. That spring, she began hinting at the idea of getting away for real. She said work was burning her out, and what she needed was a full reset. Sunshine, ocean breeze, fruity cocktails, zero obligations. I didn't jump at the idea. I was buried under a critical deadline at the office, and vanishing for a couple weeks just wasn't realistic. Besides, I never loved beaches. I'd pick a cozy cabin in the woods or a lively city weekend over sand and surf any day. Then one night over dinner, Melissa set her fork down and casually mentioned going without me. The suggestion hit a nerve. The thought of her sprawled out on some tropical beach while I was stuck behind a desk. It didn't sit right, but she quickly followed up with, "I'd be with Jolyn, just a girl's thing. Yoga at dawn, massages, nothing wild," she promised. Jolyn had recently wrapped up a rough divorce and was throwing herself into single life with the enthusiasm of a college freshman. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but Melissa gave me this look from across the table, soft, pleading, like she genuinely needed the break. I hesitated, then gave her the okay. I wanted to believe in us. I needed to. "Go recharge," I told her. "Just promise me I won't see you on some trashy beach reality show," I joked. She clinked her glass against mine and grinned. Deal. That was that. At the time, I thought my willingness to let her go was proof of our strength. In hindsight, it was the first sign I didn't know how fragile trust really was. Watching her pack the night before her flight, none of it felt off. I even helped finalize her travel plans and slipped a little extra cash into her purse. She was glowing with anticipation, and I was happy for her, truly. We were solid, or so I believed. I had no reason to question anything. I didn't realize then that I just opened the door to the worst decision of my life. Melissa left on a Wednesday morning. I drove her to the airport, kissed her goodbye, and told her to enjoy every second. The first few days were exactly what you'd expect. Beach selfies, silly clips of Jolyn falling into waves, snapshots of paradise. She'd send me messages late at night. "Miss you. Wish you were here." And I missed her more than I expected. The house felt too quiet without her laugh echoing through the rooms. But by day 5, her texts slowed to a trickle. No more evening calls, no sunny updates. I told myself she was just caught up in the moment, Or maybe the signal was bad. Still, a strange tension settled in my chest. That night, around midnight, I texted her a simple, "Good night, babe." It stayed marked as read for hours before she finally replied. Exhausted. Love you. It wasn't like her. Melissa always added a heart, a nickname, a private joke. This one felt robotic. The next morning, I tried texting again. Nothing. Called her around noon, straight to voicemail. I told myself not to spiral. Maybe they were out on a boat. Maybe Wi-Fi was spotty. Jolyn was always dragging her along on some unpredictable adventure. But that night, lying alone, the silence around me thickened. Something didn't feel right. When she finally reached out 2 days later, it was a blurry photo of a market and a vague message. Busy day. We'll catch up soon. No miss you, no love you. I stared at that message for a long time, and for the first time, doubt sank its teeth in deep. That should have been the moment I listened to my gut. But I didn't. I kept telling myself to wait. She'd be home soon. I'd get answers then. Maybe I was overthinking, or maybe everything I knew was about to come undone. Melissa flew back in late Sunday afternoon. I waited at the airport by baggage claim, a mess of nerves and anticipation. She looked incredible, sun-kissed, glowing, maybe too glowing. She ran into my arms like everything was normal. "I missed you so much," she whispered, holding me like it meant something. I held her, but something was off. It felt like hugging someone who wore her scent but didn't carry her warmth. On the drive home, she talked non-stop about the food, the parties, the sunsets. It was all Jolyn this, Jolyn that. Her words felt rehearsed, like a script she'd memorized. When we got home, she dropped her suitcase in the living room and let out a sigh. "I need a long shower," she said, already climbing the stairs. I lingered by the suitcase, hands deep in my pockets. "Hey," I said, half laughing, "you didn't forget to bring me back something, did you?" She laughed too quickly. "Of course not. Just give me a second." Melissa knelt by her half-packed suitcase, fingers rummaging through a disorderly stack of clothes. As she shifted a few items aside, something unusual caught my eye, a brief flash of vivid color. It was lace, expensive, fine, and unmistakably not her style, not even close. I didn't say anything. I just watched her quietly. Then she paused, just for a heartbeat, but I noticed. Her hand hovered, hesitant, over a small black pouch tucked between a pair of jeans and a floral sundress. She picked it up gingerly, like it might burn her, and held it out toward me. "Got you some rum from the island," she said with a smile that faltered at the edges. "Locals swear it's the good stuff." I accepted the pouch and peeked inside. Nestled in a cheap souvenir t-shirt was a bottle, its label worn and sun-bleached, a cartoon dolphin grinning up at me. "Thanks," I said, setting it down. She let out a laugh, too sharp, too forced, then pushed the suitcase aside and slipped into the bathroom. I was left standing there, rum in one hand, that ridiculous shirt in the other, suddenly wondering, truly wondering, what exactly had gone on during the week she'd fallen off the map. In the days that followed, I tried to swallow the doubt, to pretend it was nothing. Melissa acted normal, maybe too normal. She cooked dinner like always, laughed at my same tired jokes, even suggested movie night like we used to. But the harder she leaned into routine, the more every little detail screamed at me. Her phone never left her side. The lock screen had changed. New code. Messages would light up the screen late into the night. She'd glance, then flip it face down like a reflex. One evening, while she was in the shower, her phone vibrated on the bathroom counter. I looked. A name flashed across the screen. Ben. There was a small photo beside it. Tanned, smug, shirtless. The kind of guy who looked like he thought the world owed him something. I didn't know a Ben. When Melissa emerged, wrapped in a towel, I kept my tone light. "Who's Ben?" I asked. Her posture shifted, just slightly, but I caught it. Then came a casual laugh. "Oh, some guy Jolyn and I met on the island. He ran snorkeling tours. Totally harmless." I nodded, didn't press. "Right," I said. "Harmless guys don't text you past midnight." Her expression tensed. "You're reading too much into this, Jacob." "Seriously." She gave me a kiss on the cheek, brief, rehearsed, and walked off into the bedroom. That night, while she slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my thoughts spiraling. The next morning, once she'd left to grab groceries, I opened my laptop and searched the resort's Instagram. I scrolled through endless images, smiling tourists, ocean views, beach bonfires. Then I found it, a video, nighttime party on the beach, a bonfire blazing, music thumping in the background. And there she was, Melissa, laughing, swaying, drink in hand, and right next to her, Ben. His arm wrapped casually around her shoulders, like it belonged there. I recognized him instantly, same smirk from the phone photo. No work gear, no snorkel, just bare chest and a look in his eyes like he'd already had her. Their faces close, too close, like they were one beat away from a kiss. I leaned back in my chair, my whole body going numb. This wasn't a getaway. She'd stepped into another life the second she landed on that island. And now she was back here, looking me in the eye and pretending it hadn't happened. That evening, after dinner, I couldn't hold it in anymore. She was curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone, acting like everything was fine. I placed my beer down on the table, firmly. "We need to talk." She looked up, unfazed. "About what?" "Ben," I said, voice flat. Her smile faltered. "Told you he's nobody." I didn't let her continue. "I saw the videos, from the resort's page. You were hanging off him like some teenage fangirl." Her hands froze mid-scroll, the color draining from her face. "It was just dancing," she said, voice tight and defensive. "Dancing?" I leaned forward. "You were 2 seconds away from kissing him." Silence. I waited, gave her a chance to tell the truth, to own it. But she just shook her head, stubborn. "You're being paranoid, Jacob. You're making this into something it's not." And there it was. The lie. She wouldn't even look at me. Her fingers twitched at the hem of her shirt, an old nervous habit. "You slept with him," I said. Not a question, a statement. Her lips parted, then closed again. "No," she murmured. But her face said everything, and in that moment, something inside me snapped. She wasn't sorry, not for the cheating, just for getting caught. I stood up. "Start packing." She blinked, like I'd spoken in a language she didn't understand. "Jacob, wait." "Now, Melissa." Her voice cracked. She started crying, soft, broken, but I didn't move. I wasn't letting her rewrite the story. 15 minutes later, she was stuffing clothes into her suitcase, wiping her face with trembling hands. She paused in the doorway, luggage in tow, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "It didn't mean anything," she whispered. "I swear." I didn't say a thing. Just closed the door behind her, turned the lock, and stood still. Once Melissa was gone, the house felt abandoned, like even the echoes had followed her out. I hovered near the entryway for a while, then eventually flicked off the porch light and trudged to bed. The days after that felt like a blur of exhaustion and quiet torment. I kept everything bottled up, buried myself in routines, work, sleep, repeat, anything to keep my thoughts from wandering too far into the pain. Then one afternoon, Jolyn called. "Jacob," she said, voice tight, cautious. "I think you should know. Melissa's not doing too great." I kept my tone flat. "Actions come with a price." There was a pause. Then she added, "She went to a clinic. Jolyn said Melissa hadn't been feeling right. They did some tests." I waited, silent. Then Jolyn just said it, rushed, like ripping off a bandage. She tested positive for an STD. She figured you should get tested too. That was the last punch, the final shard of glass in an already shattered picture. Even after everything she'd ruined, Melissa had left behind one last wound. I thanked Jolynn, ended the call, and sat there in a heavy silence. I wasn't furious in that moment. The anger was too weighty to flare. It just sat there, thick and suffocating. The next morning, I went and got tested. Fortunately, everything came back clean. 2 weeks later, I filed for divorce. No drawn-out battles, no yelling over who got what. She didn't contest a single term. A mutual friend later mentioned that Melissa had ended up in a tiny studio apartment across town. Said she looked rough, thinner, paler, a little haunted. That same friend said Melissa had started minimizing it all, telling people it was just a stupid, meaningless fling during a trip. But sometimes, the little mistakes are the ones that cost you everything. You think when someone sets fire to your life, the smoke will choke you for years. But once the ashes settle, there's space to rebuild. Half a year after she walked out, the house finally felt like it was mine. I painted the walls, replaced the bed we used to share with something that had no memories attached. Fresh sheets, fresh start. I even took an actual vacation. Not the kind you use to escape the wreckage, but the kind you take when you're ready to breathe again. I skipped the beaches, went up into the mountains instead. Clear skies, cold air, silence that didn't feel empty. I hiked all day and slept in places with no cell signal. Somewhere on a ridge, staring into a vast open valley, I realized the rage had melted away. I wasn't angry anymore. I was unburdened. Melissa reached out once, sent a long, meandering email filled with apologies and longing. I didn't reply, didn't even read beyond the opening line, just hit delete and kept moving. Not long after, I showed up to a barbecue at a friend's place. Jolynn was there too, with a new guy on her arm. At one point, I pulled him aside, quietly told him what really happened on that trip. Not out of spite, not to ruin anything. But if Jolynn was planning more girls' weekends, I figured he deserved the full picture. He didn't say much, just gave a small nod. Solemn, tight. That was enough. I let it go. No need for revenge speeches or bitter closure. Just me, living the life Melissa threw away, and living it with peace. Sometimes I think about how close I came to spending forever chained to someone who didn't value it. Strangely enough, I'm grateful. She gave me clarity. She showed me exactly who she was, before there were children, shared mortgages, and milestone anniversaries tying us together. It was better to bury the marriage than bury myself in a constant effort to resuscitate something that was already gone. These days, I sleep better, knowing that the next time I give my heart away, it'll be to someone who knows how to look me in the eye when it truly counts. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you. She says she missed you, takes your hand like the cold of the past months never happened. Then she whispers, "I'm pregnant." And even though you smile, you already know something's wrong. The dates don't add up. The phone she never lets go of. That look in her eyes, no joy, no worry, just distance. So you start digging, not out of revenge, but instinct. One file, one chat, one sentence. It's your baby, but the message isn't meant for you. What do you do when betrayal isn't impulsive, but calculated? When warmth returns not out of love, but out of fear of being exposed? You can scream, you can leave, or you can wait. For the perfect moment, right in the middle of the celebration, when everyone's smiling, when she thinks she's won. Sometimes revenge is silence, and the truth, spoken aloud to everyone she lied to. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. I'm Thomas, and I used to think betrayal came like thunder, loud, sudden, impossible to miss. But that's not how it works. It creeps in quietly, a silent leak of poison, subtle, invisible, until one day, the whole foundation gives out. Naomi and I had been married for 6 years. The early ones were filled with warmth, not perfect, but real. We had our routines, lazy Sunday breakfasts, movie marathons with black and white classics, private jokes that made no sense to anyone else. But over time, those small joys started to fade, not with a bang, but like paint slowly peeling off a wall. She was promoted at work, bigger role, higher stakes, longer hours. I didn't question it. I was proud of her. "Big day coming up?" I'd ask while she grabbed her bag. "Yeah, really big," she'd answer, barely glancing up from her phone. That became our new normal, short exchanges, distant tones. It felt like she was withdrawing, little by little. The only time her expression changed was when her phone vibrated. Even then, I stayed the course, handled the errands, kept our lives running, and pushed my doubts deep down. Then came the strange silence around the topic of children. We'd been loosely trying for a baby for about a year. Then, without a word, she stopped tracking her cycle, skipped her checkups. When I finally brought it up, asked if having a child was still something she wanted, she just shrugged. "Let's not force it," she muttered. That's when it clicked. Not because she looked sad or unsure. That would have made sense. No, she looked distant, like someone playing a part in a show they'd mentally quit long ago. And just as I was adjusting to the slow unraveling of what we'd built, everything shifted. One evening, she walked in holding my favorite Thai food. "I missed you," she said softly, leaning in for a kiss, tentative but warm, like the months of cold hadn't happened. That night, she curled up beside me as if nothing had ever been broken. I should have asked questions, should have wondered why the sudden change. But when you've been starving emotionally, even a scrap feels like a banquet. What followed was surreal. Naomi seemed reborn, present, engaged, almost glowing. She started laughing again, genuine, carefree laughter. She'd slip notes into my lunch. "Miss you already?" Or, "Tonight's just us." It felt unreal, like emotional whiplash. The woman I thought I'd lost had returned as though she'd never gone. I didn't know whether to embrace it or brace for impact. Then one night, I came home to low lighting and candlelight dancing across the kitchen. She'd actually made dinner, no shortcuts. I hesitated but asked, "What changed?" She hesitated too, eyes dropping. "I lost sight of us," she said. "Got wrapped up in work, in everything else. But I don't want us to fall apart." It sounded rehearsed, almost too clean, but it was what I'd been aching to hear. So I didn't argue. I just held her hand. That was enough, at least for a while. In the weeks that followed, we found our rhythm again. She did the small things, folded my shirts, poured my coffee, kissed me before I left each morning. It felt like we were starting over. Until the night she sat beside me on the couch, something in her eyes trembling. Her hand reached out with a small plastic test. "I took one," she said. "It's positive." I froze. We hadn't been actively trying in months. There'd been no conversations, no plans. Still, I smiled, kissed her forehead, said all the right things. But something inside me recoiled. A whisper started echoing in the back of my mind. "Is the baby yours?" We didn't tell anyone that night. Naomi said she wanted to wait for the first scan. She didn't want to jinx it. I agreed. But deep down, I wasn't waiting because of superstition. I was stalling, because something felt off. The timeline didn't sit right. I replayed the dates in my head over and over. If it really happened when she claimed, it would have been one of those first reconnection nights. But it felt too tidy, too orchestrated. I tried to brush it aside, but things started stacking up. She was never without her phone, even took it into the bathroom, changed the lock screen code, no more casually leaving it charging by the bed. She silenced incoming calls before I could hear anything. No names, no voices. Individually, it was all circumstantial. But together, it gnawed at me. I needed more than instinct. I needed answers. So I reached out to the one person who might have a window into what was going on, her sister, Maris. We met at a quiet cafe on a gray afternoon. I kept it casual, but didn't dance around the question. "Naomi been talking to you lately?" Maris stirred her drink slowly, eyes fixed on the table. "Not really," she said after a pause. "She's kind of been keeping to herself. Says work's intense." "Did she say why?" "Just that it was work," Maris answered. "You know how she gets completely consumed when something big's on her plate." I nodded slowly. "Did she ever mention anyone in particular from work?" Maris hesitated. "Charles, her boss. She used to bring him up all the time. Complaints about meetings, stress, weird little anecdotes." "Used to?" "Yeah," she said, her brow furrowed. "That stopped a few weeks back. It stood out because, well, that's not like her." "Any idea why?" "She always mentioned him when we talked. I thought maybe something happened between them. Maybe a fight. Or maybe he crossed a line." I didn't respond right away. That name, Charles, stuck. I remembered her bringing him up in passing, like background noise. But lately, nothing. Silence. And people don't go silent on someone unless there's a reason, unless they're hiding something. That night, sleep never came. I stayed on the couch, staring at nothing, every word Maris said looping in my head. There was a knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. By the time the sky lightened, I knew what I had to do. I needed the truth. So I started tearing the apartment apart looking for her old tablet. I emptied drawers, pulled out storage bins from under the bed, combed through the clutter until I found it, wedged in the corner of the hallway closet, buried in a box full of tangled chargers and outdated gadgets. She used to use it for simple things, reading, emails, syncing to her cloud. I didn't turn it on. Instead, I got in my car and drove across town to a tech repair place I'd seen 100 times but never entered. The guy behind the counter looked up as I walked in. I held the tablet out. "Can you recover deleted files?" He nodded, took it, and told me to give him an hour. I drifted around the area, bought a coffee I never drank. When I came back, he slid the tablet across the counter, tapped the screen once, and gave me a nod. I paid and left without a word. I didn't go home. I sat in my car, staring at the dashboard, motionless. Then I turned the tablet on. Photos, videos, messages, everything. I scrolled through it like each swipe dragged me further down, and then I saw them. Dozens of messages from Charles, back and forth, timestamps, plans, flirtation that escalated, conversations that weren't meant for me. Then the one that hit like a blow to the chest, a message from her, a month before she told me she was pregnant. "I'm late," he responded. "Are you sure it's not his?" And she wrote back, "It's yours." But we hadn't been close in weeks. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, jaw clenched, trying not to break down right there in the car. Suddenly, everything made sense. The sudden affection, the softness, how she'd wrapped herself around me like she was in love again. But it wasn't love. It was control. A rehearsed performance to keep the story straight if anyone started asking questions. There comes a moment when rage cools into resolve, when your voice quiets and the chaos inside you sharpens into something focused. That's when you choose your next move. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to plead. I'd respond with the same cold precision she thought she had over me, but I'd do it my way. A week after the ultrasound, I brought it up casually over dinner. "We should plan something," I said, cutting my steak. She looked up, curious. "Plan what?" For the baby, a little celebration, just close friends and family. Her eyes widened slightly, then softened. You'd really do that? Of course, I said. Let's keep it simple. Brunch, soft music, modest decorations, just enough to make it feel meaningful. She reached for my hand, smiled. Thank you, she said quietly. That means a lot. She looked so at peace, and in that moment I knew. She didn't suspect a thing. In the days that followed, I played the part, helped choose colors and flowers, smiled while she obsessed over cake flavors. But behind the scenes, I was assembling something else entirely. 1 week before the shower, I met with my lawyer. I handed over the evidence, screenshots, synced files, timestamps. We didn't wait. Divorce papers were drafted right then. No gray areas, adultery, deceit, paternity lies. It was all laid out. The night before the party, I printed out the most damning messages, folded them, sealed them in an envelope. The morning of the event, I was up early, helped set up tables, checked the guest list, greeted people with a practiced smile. Naomi looked radiant, the kind of glow that fools everyone into thinking everything's perfect. She touched my arm, called me babe, played her role flawlessly. Around noon, they brought out the cake. Applause rang out. Naomi stood beside me, one hand on her belly, glowing for the crowd. Say a few words, someone called. I stepped forward, voice calm, unwavering. Thanks for coming, everyone. It means a lot to celebrate a moment like this, even if things aren't always what they seem. The room stilled. Silence fell like a curtain. I reached into my jacket, pulled out the envelope. This is for Naomi, I said. She laughed, a little nervous. What is it? I gave her everything. No lies, no filters, just the truth, raw and exposed. She unfolded the pages with a trembling grip, her fingers hesitating the second her eyes scanned the first lines. Her gaze moved quickly at first, then stopped cold. She didn't utter a word. She didn't have to. Her face spoke volumes. She stood frozen, clutching the paper like it might burn through her palms. Her mouth opened slightly, as if a reaction was forming, but nothing came out. A few guests leaned in closer, sensing something. Others traded uneasy glances. The air grew heavy, not just quiet but electric with tension. You could almost hear it hum. Thomas, she whispered. Read it, I said. All of it. But she didn't turn the page. She didn't need to. Her eyes had already landed on the line, her admission to Charles that he was the father. I faced the room, my voice calm. For those who didn't know, the baby Naomi's carrying isn't mine. It belongs to her boss, the one she claimed was just mentoring her, the same man she's been seeing behind my back for over a year. Shock rippled through the crowd like a silent wave. A few gasps escaped. Chairs scraped quietly across the floor. Someone stifled a breath. Eyes darted anywhere but toward me. The divorce is already underway, I continued, voice level. I let my eyes pass over the room. Naomi stepped forward, her voice barely more than a whisper, raw and shaking. Please, not like this. Can we talk? I stepped back. Slowly. There's nothing left to talk about. I glanced at her parents, silent, stunned. Then looked back at her. I wasn't angry. There were no tears, no yelling. Just a man watching the curtain fall on a performance, knowing the lead had been caught in her lie. I hope he's everything you gave up for, I said, because I'm not staying. And I left. I didn't go home. Instead, I checked into a hotel on the far side of town and turned my phone off. By morning, the aftermath had begun. Missed calls, voicemails, a few friends scrambling to understand what had happened. Maris called several times. I let them all go unanswered. There wasn't anything left to explain. 2 days later, I came back to the house. She was gone. Her clothes, her toiletries, the photos that used to line the hallway, all vanished. No note, no apology. I stood in the kitchen, surrounded by the quiet. It didn't feel like peace. Not yet. Just an absence. The silence that follows a storm, when there's nothing left to break. The divorce was finalized that week. My lawyer forwarded the final documents. She didn't fight it. No objections, no phone calls, just her signature, tidy, emotionless, on the last page. A few days later, I saw Maris. She looked worn out. "She's staying with someone," she said. "She's not in a good place." I let out a long breath. She made her choices. She has to live with them. Maris hesitated. "She asked me to tell you she's sorry." I shook my head. "She's not sorry for doing it. She's sorry I found out." Time moved forward. I got a smaller place across the city, somewhere untouched by the past. I started exercising again, took up hiking on weekends, tried things I used to say I didn't have time for. The quiet stopped feeling empty. It felt still, manageable. Some old friends stayed in touch. When they asked how I was, I told them the truth. I was okay. I meant it. Because healing didn't come from bitterness or revenge. It came from leaving with my pride intact. No rage, no score to settle, just distance. And sometimes, that's what strength looks like. Not burning everything down behind you, but walking away on your own terms. One step at a time, without once turning back. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.